minute to log on?
No, we're starting now. Forget no. It's like I told you to be ready at 4:30. Yeah, we're leaving you.
All right.
Those of us with kids, we know that game.
So we are live.
So for those of you, just let us know if the audio and the video sounds good. If not, we can make some adjustments here before we get all lost ball and tall weeds, and I'm giving tremendous knowledge, and then no one can hear me.
Yeah, except you don't have anybody watching yet because we just went live.
Oh, nobody's watching.
So, all right, but
live stream like no
I'm
one's
not trending.
watching. Live stream like no one's watching.
Yeah, live stream into the abyss.
all right. So why don't you tell me how has your month gone? Because it's been a month since we
It's only
were last.
5 days.
No, it's been a month since the last time we live
We
streamed.
celebrated Jesus' birthday.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry.
This button. Okay. Well, I woke up about a month ago. Made myself breakfast. How much detail do you want?
No.
I've been working out lately.
Okay, now we have people watching. Stop being boring.
Okay. I've been working out lately. Really
Recap the
enjoying
last
that.
month.
And I'm trending on my workouts. So I've been using the Supernatural Flow. It's the VR goggles. I really like the Supernatural. I like the Flow where you're swinging. And so I wear a heart rate monitor, and I'm burning. I do about a 45-minute workout, and I'm burning 500 to 700 calories a time. That's kind of exciting. During the holiday time, it does kind of mess up my mojo a little bit. With places being opened and closed and scheduling and shipping and everything. So we just kind of ease back and just enjoy the purpose of that season. So service calls went down a little bit. We were available for folks. If people were coming out of town, they needed things fixed, we were available for that. Otherwise, I just kind of let my hair down. Didn't shave for a couple of days. It got ugly.
And how'd it go today? And usually
Today we had
schedule
2
you
customers, 2
on the
furnaces,
live stream.
2 furnaces today. And the first furnace, I was tempted to make a video of the first furnace because there's a way, and I will make a video of this. I didn't have time to do it today, but I was very tempted to make a video today. You could diagnose a furnace from the thermostat. How do you do that? So I was able to diagnose pretty much the problem with this guy's furnace all from the thermostat wires. And this was a furnace that in order to get to, you had to go through the basement. You had to take out a bulkhead wall. You had to take off all the ductwork. There was all these lines in the way. The water lines were in the way. It was just like, it must have been the first thing they put in this RV, and then they built around it. So it took quite a bit of time to get that furnace out. But it was a sale switch, a $15 part. But it was a $600 repair bill to replace a $15 part. But furnace is working, and the second one, somebody had else put this furnace in on the second customer today. Somebody else had put the furnace in. They didn't put the wire nuts on very well, and so the wire nut fell off, and the wire touched the metal frame of the carcass of the furnace, blew a fuse, and I saved this fuse. And I'm going to show this fuse in one of my little show and tell type things. If you have your meter and you're at the furnace, you're going to get 12 volts. But as soon as there's a call for heat and the motor tries to start, your voltage goes to 0. So at first I'm thinking open ground, and I start looking around for all the different things. And what threw me off is what you take your meter, I have 12 volts. It's there. And so it didn't take too much time to say, well, I'm going to go to the source. I'm going to go to the fuse. And sure enough, the fuse was blown, but it was blown in such a way that even though it was blown, there was a whisker of it or something that was allowing the voltage to pass through, 12 volt reading. And so I saved that fuse, and we're going to play with that fuse. But apparently others had tried to figure this out, but My RV Works was able to figure it out. So anyway, that's what happened today.
That's great.
It was kind of fun.
And so thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to answer your questions on this live stream. And before we get started, why don't we had a couple of product questions.
Oh.
So we'll go ahead and I'll ask you those. Those should be really quick, and then we'll start.
Really quick. You don't know me very
well.
well.
It's just, yeah, well,
Yeah.
all right. So Scott.
How much time do we have for this? No, okay.
So Scott says, I thought I heard Darren mention green plastic ends for RV use and black for patio barbecues, and I wasn't sure if a backflow preventer was necessary.
No.
Okay, not necessary.
Well, okay, so in the green, what we're talking about here is the propane pigtails. It took me a minute to figure that out. In the green Acme screw, this is the green connector on your pigtail. If you've got an old one laying around, I recommend you do this. Cut that thing laterally and open it up. You're going to see a spring and a BB inside of there. So it's got a backflow preventer built into the thing. And then if you really want to have some fun, kind of heat it up with a heat gun or something. And there's a little, I don't know, I've seen them black, I've seen them white, but there's this little disc. So if you look at the end of the connector, there's a little disc back behind it, and that's a heat fuse, if you will, okay? So it's low temperature, it'll melt, and it'll slam the thing, preventing propane from leaking out. So there's no point in having a backflow preventer on those because it's built into the green end. Now, having said that, some manufacturers will put a check valve backflow preventer at the regulator itself. And if you look inside, if you take your pigtail off and you look inside this little brass fitting, you might see like a little white looking disc inside of there. That's a backflow preventer, but that's on the regulator. And a lot of times they'll use some thread lock, just like that orangey colored stuff, where you got to heat it up to get it to loosen up. But that's on the regulator, not on the pigtail. So hope that answered that one.
Yeah.
Was that short enough?
Oh, that was perfect.
Okay.
And actually, when I got that question, I actually looked up some information.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Because he was, well, I'm not going to add anything that you don't know.
Okay.
But I think this was the same one that was asking about the difference between like black and green. And so, and he was saying, you know, he thought that he needed to use the green that you had said instead of the black. And so that's all like, it depends on the flow, right?
It's flow rate, yeah. And you can look, that is a correct statement. You can look, so again, take your little screw off and look at the orifice size of the hole. And so you have black, red, and green, but then you have light green and dark green. So they take the greens and they split them up into two. And so it all has to do with how many BTUs per hour will flow through that end. Now, since we're talking about the pigtails and stuff like that, if you're going to, so the standard for an RV is going to, for an RV, not a barbecue grill, for an RV, the standard for an RV is going to be green with a standard colored regulator. If you're going to go with a high flow pigtail, so why would you do that? You would do that if you bought your RV, it came with a furnace, wonderful, great, came with a water heater, wonderful, great, but then you upgrade your water heater to an on-demand water heater, okay? So the on-demand water heater is a major propane consumer, okay? So normally what we recommend would be to upgrade your regulator and your pigtail to the high flow, okay? So let's pick MEC as an example. So Marshall Excelsior is a manufacturer of regulators and pigtails and things like that. And so a lot of times what we'll do for folks is if they call us to upgrade their standard RV with an on-demand water heater, then we will recommend putting in a high flow regulator, and which in Marshall Excelsior is like an olive green colored regulator. And then we would recommend putting a high flow pigtail, which is red on the end. So it's kind of like, if you're going to put a high flow regulator on, you also need a high flow pigtail. Also, if you're going to put a high flow pigtail, well, you need to put a high flow regulator. Now, if you go to the Marshall Excelsior website, I don't know what that Marshall Excelsior website is. It might be MEC, because that's their abbreviations. And click on their product catalog. The first couple of pages are going to actually show you a picture of the green, the red, and the black pigtails. And then their little box off to the side will show you how many BTUs each one is allowed to pass through. And then either on that same page or a page back and forth, they will show you the three regulators: the high flow regulator, the standard regulator, and the low flow regulator, which is blue in color. Not to be confused, Camco has a standard regulator with a blue cap, okay? But you really need to look at the spec of these regulators and mate and marry the regulator BTU per hour with the pigtail you're putting on it. Those kind of need to go together. So I could go on I love propane, and I'm getting ready to teach a propane class, so I'm pretty in depth on that. So for all of your propane spec, MEC Marshall Excelsior does a fantastic job at educating people with their catalog. So it's well written. I found a couple typos in it. I didn't write it. So I was going to say, okay, guys, you need to send me something because you got some typos in here. And so that's when you know you've been reading manuals, when you find typos in the manuals. But yeah, find the Marshall Excelsior website, click the PDF download for their catalog, and the first half of that catalog is just full of information about what you're asking about. So.
All right. So.
Also, NFPA 1192, NFPA 1192. You could Google that. And that is the standard with which all RVs are to be built. There is a standard. It's in the NFPA 1192 for recreational vehicles. Chapter 5 of the NFPA deals with propane specifically. So all of Chapter 5 has to do with all of your propane questions on the specs or the code for RVs. NFPA 1192, Chapter 5. So.
Oh.
And another thing. No, I'm being silly. Go ahead. I'm being a ham bone. All right, I'm done.
Okay, just want to give a shout out to Daniel, and he said thanks for the Poppy video, and you know that makes Sid and I happy because she's our little pop-up camper.
Thank you.
So thanks for watching that, and we'll look forward to getting some money and being able to do more repairs eventually. Darren does the labor for free, so we've got a pretty sweet deal.
It's one of the benefits of being an employee. Yes, yes.
And then I did want to say to Alexander, I saw that, I know you're limited to 140 characters, and if you have a long thing, it's a lot to type, but if you want to just send us an email, I'll hop over there and take a look and try to get your question queued up. And Vonda, if you can kind of expand, I have your question there, we'll ask it in a little bit, but if you can kind of expand on, you know, there's no electricity, is there any more detail that you can provide that would help us to know what we need to help you troubleshoot? And I think I just have one more part question. Oh, so I'll just tell you now that I think we had like the backflow or the green plastic thing, whatever you're talking about, the regulator or whatever.
You looked up. Yeah.
We had it on our Amazon storefront, and I think the link is bad or something, so we might need to redo that. Okay, and then let's see. Bruce says, what is the make and model of a portable rechargeable unit Darren uses / recommends? It looks so compact. Portable. I wish I had more of a reference. I didn't write what video it was on.
Portable unit. Portable. Can I buy a vowel?
Okay, I'll try to circle back and find out what that was.
Portable rechargeable unit.
If it was a recent video or...
Like a battery jump box?
I'm thinking maybe.
Portable. So I use... Okay, so I don't know what that translates into, but so I use 12-volt tools. I'm not a carpenter driving big screws into wood. I'm taking screws off of things, okay? So I use 12-volt tools, and I like, so I use a DeWalt, but I've also got a Bosch, and Milwaukee makes them too, but I use 12-volt tools. Overwhelmingly, that's what's my everyday carry I keep in my tool bag. And so if you've seen several of my videos, guess what? I make a test lead set. And the test lead set has all my little fittings that some of them I make myself, some of them we buy in bulk, and we kind of kit them, and we make those available on our store, on our MyRV Works store. It's called the test lead set. And you can kind of a la carte it or bundle it together. And so one of the little jigs that I make, one of the little taps that I make, connects to the 12-volt battery pack that I have. So here I have my tool bag. I've got the 12-volt battery on my drill because I'm just doing screws, okay? And then I take my test lead set, pull out this little pigtail that it's got little connectors on it. I connect it right into my little 12-volt battery pack, and then I've got a 12-volt power source. That 12-volt power source, I can run your awning in and out. I can bump your slide room, actually. Turn lights on, test solenoids. I used it today just to run a furnace, just to do a bench test on a furnace. So it's just the battery pack off my 12-volt drill. And so those of you who choose to go with 12-volt drills, you have a ready-made 12-volt power source right there with you, right on your drill. If you're going to go with an 18-volt, you can't do that. and plus they weigh more. So let's go with little 12 volt drills. My 12 volt tools last me days and days and days between charges. Because again, I'm just doing little screws, guys, and that's all you're going to be doing is little screws, taking panels off, doing stuff like that. I don't know that it would last in the carpentry industry or the mechanic industry, but it works perfectly for what we do because you've got a 12 volt power source carrying with you as you're doing work on your RV. Also works in automotive because these things are 12 volts, so you got a ready-made power source. So I don't know if that's what he's talking about, but I'm thinking compact and everything. Yeah, it's a battery off of my drill. So, and that goes with our test lead set. I made them to work together, and so there's that. Just on that, like I used DeWalt. I don't know why. I just got one on sale, and now I'm married to DeWalt. Okay, but if you disconnect but I like Bosch makes a really nice drill. It's very smooth, very silky. But so I've tested it on my Bosch batteries and my DeWalt batteries. Just make sure on the battery packs themselves, it's gonna have like a little plus and a little minus. So that's where you connect it to. You could take a paint pen and red dot the plus. Is what I usually do, and that's how you get your polarity. So there's my thoughts on that.
All right. So let's see, we've got a lot of stuff queued up.
Yay.
Okay, so
I'll try to go quicker. I'll do my best.
I also wanted to tell Gary, so he had asked if we do a pre-trip inspection, like he's getting ready to go on a trip to Alaska, and he's a couple hours away. So yeah, you can go to myrvworks.com, submit a service request, and we're happy to get you scheduled for that. What would you, probably the RV checkup?
It'd be the RV checkup.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are RV techs that do like a PDI type thing, and here, if you've gotten to know me over the last 5 years of doing these videos, I have dyslexia, okay? So when I put together my, so go to our website, go to our resources tab, and go to the manuals section, okay? And we haven't fixed this yet, but I'm aware of it. So when you get to that area, you're gonna have a little box and you can search for it. And so normally I would say search for PID, okay. Nope, see, I did it again. I have dyslexia. So normally in the search box, you're going to do a pre-delivery inspection, PDI, okay? And then when you get that, it's going to give you a couple different forms that you can just use to fill out, okay? These are the forms I used when I worked at a dealership doing PDIs, okay? You get to know them really well and you can knock a PDI out really quickly. But being that I get letters backwards, you don't search for PDI, you won't get anything. You got to search for PID, okay? So do a search for PID, not PDI, and then you'll get the list. And I guess I need to go in there and fix that. PID, for those engineers, it stands for proportional integral derivative. It's a mathematical formula you use to do heating, cooling, things like that. So I did a lot with PID in my engineering world, but you need to do a search for, hope that makes sense. Anyway, so pre-delivery inspection on our service request questionnaire. So for us, this is our automated service advisor, if you will. So you're going to go to our website, myrvworks.com. You're going to see these orange buttons. You're going to click on submit service request. You're going to work your way through the form. When you get to the form, we're going to be collecting all of your information and your who, what, when, where, why, how stuff. But when you get to the list portion, you're going to basically do the RV checkup for us. If you're going to want to come to us, the RV checkup. In the RV checkup, I believe I got trip inspection. Because a pop-up is different than a truck camper, is different than a Class A, a fifth wheel. I mean, they're different. So we've kind of made an a la carte kind of cafeteria style pick and choose. So select them all if you want, and then when we get there, we'll figure out what we need and don't need to do. But that's how I came up with how to do a pre-delivery inspection. We do offer a complete PDI, but that's several hours long and it's very expensive. So we usually tell people, look, let's just do major systems check. Let's just do this pre-delivery inspection thing versus a full-blown 5-hour PDI on your RV. So there's that part.
All right, great. So let's see. All right, so yes, we're here to answer your questions. I know we've already been kind of answering some questions and talking a lot. Some of that was just things that were pre-queued up or just wanting to give shout outs to people and make sure that we get some more detail before we dive in. So if you're not familiar, we go live the first Friday of every month at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we answer your questions. So the way that works is that you will put your question in the chat. You are limited to 140 characters, but if you have like a lengthy one, you can just put in the first part, and you can do it in 2 or 3 message threads if you need to. And make sure that you put the manufacturer and the model number of the appliance so that we know what we're talking about. We don't care what year or make or model your RV is, but we do care what the appliance is. So let us know, is it a Dometic refrigerator, a Norcold refrigerator, what's the model number? And then if you can, try to spell check. That's not because I'm an English nerd or I care whether or not you spell correctly. It's just because sometimes it gets really confusing, and it's super easy with autocorrect for things to get messed up there. So just double check before you hit enter. We will answer 20 questions today. We have about 10 of them queued up already just from your live chat. And so feel free to keep on asking those, and we'll queue those up as well. Once we get to 20, we'll be done. And yeah, and stay tuned. So if you've asked a question already, your question will be answered. So if you can hang in there, because sometimes when I ask the question, Darren has some follow-up to kind of narrow down what it is that might be going on with your particular issue. So David says, oh, is that, wait, okay, this was a pre-queued question. I'm gonna go to a live question. Okay, so Vonda says, I'm having trouble. There is no electricity when I hook up the RV. Maybe there's rust on the negative bar or the box, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Okay, for that, we're going to need an electrical meter. How comfortable is she with, I'm going to assume you have an electrical meter. Okay. I'm going to, because if you don't, you need to get one. So here is our pedestal. Okay, we have grass. And then it doesn't really matter if it's 50 amp or 30 amp. I'm going to draw 30 amp, but if it's 50, it's fine. So you have these, I could do a little bit better than that. What you need to do is verify. So here's your 30 amp plug. 50 amp looks like this. Okay, go with it. Okay, so do you have power here? Okay, we need to know which way to go with this thing. So on your pedestal, you're going to have your little breakers and all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be your ground. I don't know which one's which. I should, but so you should have 120 between these, and you should have 120 between these, okay? So let's say that you do, okay? So if you don't, well, then that's a pedestal problem, okay? But let's say that you do. So here is your plug, okay? And it's going through the cord, and here's your RV, okay? So let's say that we have it here. Now, one of the things that I use a lot, it's called a voltage pin. I use one from Fluke, but Greenlee makes them. And basically it's a pin, not unlike this, and you just take the cap off, turn the thing on, you can touch it to a live wire and it'll beep, letting you know that there's voltage in that wire. So a voltage pin is really handy to have just to, without probing into this with a meter point. So a voltage pin.
She has 30 amps, by the way.
30 amps, so we're on this one. So a voltage pin would be really handy to help you find this out by just taking your pin and just touching it to the wire. So what I would do if I was there, I have a voltage pin, so I would touch it here, beep, 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 beep. So that tells me I have it through my wire. Now, when we come into your RV, it's not, okay, so here, let me move this over a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna move this all over. You understand this part. I need more space because my arm's not that long. So here we're going to come into the RV. Here's our RV. Here comes our short cord wire. Okay, so we expect to have 120 volts coming in on a wire. Typically, different manufacturers, who knows what they do. There's a junction box right inside where this is. Now, your pigtail, your short cord wire, could connect like a twist kind of a connector right on the side of your RV, or it could go into a stow box and you feed it in. Regardless of which system you have, whether it's kind of like a twist locky kind or stowed in, there's going to be a junction box right there.
She says no junction wire, it goes straight to the faults.
Okay, so typically here's your short cord, the big black SO cord looking thing. Typically that black SO cord, which is very expensive, is going to go into a junction box in your RV, and out of this RV is going to be an orange 30 gauge or 30 amp 10 gauge Romex wire, okay? And that is what's going to feed your breaker box, okay? So if you have it here, but you do not have it here, a lot of times gain access to this area where this junction takes place between your SO cord, this is your shore cord, the big black cord, and if you have, normally this is an orange 10 gauge, well, they gotta be mated somewhere, right? And a lot of times they'll put like a big 1900 box, which is what they call it, with a little metal cover on it, and look to see inside of this if that's where your problem is. I've got pictures of these all burned up. Wire nut would fall off. Surprisingly, it's usually the neutral, and this might be where your problem is, okay? So if you really need to get to here anyway, so if you have it feeding your SO cord and you do not have it here, well, we gotta go to this spot, find this junction box. Sometimes you might need to take a panel off of a wall, but it's gonna be a serviceable area. And look in that spot to see if a wire nut fell off or if it's burned up, actually. I've actually seen these where they're burned up. So that would be where I would look, okay?
All right.
I'm trying my best to keep the answers quick so we can get to more of them. Hope my drawing helps.
Okay, so this was one that I thought would be good to ask you, so I put it in the queue.
I'm scared.
David says, I recently purchased a 2004 Tiffin Allegro bus with the Hydro Hot 500.
That's an Aqua Hot. Okay, yeah.
The previous owner, now 92, told me that he noticed there was a little water leaking from under the coach where the Hydro Hot is located. This occurred the last time that it was used, about 1.5 years ago. He said that he contacted his RV tech via phone, and the RV tech told him that the hydro unit would need to be replaced.
Because of a leak.
The previous owner's way of winterizing was to blow out the lines rather than using RV antifreeze throughout the system.
Okay.
He said he had blown out the water, winterized, sometime after seeing the water under the coach.
Okay.
So he says, I am just in the throes of troubleshooting. I read in the manual that the Hydro Hot can be used for heat while the fresh water lines are winterized. My question is, can the Hydro Hot be used while troubleshooting in the heat mode if there is no fluid in the fresh hot water lines?
Okay. So, if I understand the question correctly, what's leaking under the RV, have they confirmed that it's water or is it boiler antifreeze? If you have convinced yourself that what's leaking out of this thing is water and not boiler antifreeze, and if you could go to your boiler, your 500, your white thing, you're going to have like a radiator cap on it. Don't do it when it's hot. And you can confirm that there's boiler antifreeze in there. And you can confirm that your expansion tank has fluid in it. Then I would say it's probably going to be okay to run your Aqua Hot without domestic hot water, okay? So here's where I want you to go. I want you to go to my website, myrvworks.com, work your way over to, I've got a photo gallery in there somewhere. I haven't done anything with that in quite a while, but I think it's under resources. Go to my photo gallery of my website and look at those pictures. Those are pictures we put in around 2014 or something. I do have a picture, several pictures of a Aqua Hot, Hydro Hot that froze. And what you're going to see in that picture, you're going to see the heat exchangers, the boiler, okay? And wrapped around this thing is about 200 feet of copper wire, tubing, wrapped around and around this thing. Go to the picture, you'll see it. It's on my in my website under pictures. So at what this is to say is, okay, so we're going to take, let me switch to blue here. So the answer to your question is, if it's water that's leaking, then yes. So cold water is going to come in, it's going to go round and 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 round, and hot water is going to come out. So let's say that he ruptured his jacket. Now, for the Aqua Hots, I would not recommend blowing them out because you're never, ever going to get all the water out of it. And this is like at least 20 to 30, maybe 50 feet of copper tubing. You're never going to get all the water out. And all it takes is that water to settle down some of the bottom part and a freeze, and you've just did a $10,000 damage to your Hydro Hot system. Used ones back then, when we did this, the picture, we bought a used one to replace it. It was $10,000. So if you want to blow it out with your air chuck, knock yourself out. I hope you have an extra 10 grand sitting around. Better would be to pay the $3 a gallon and run the purple stuff, pink stuff through all this to ensure your success, at least down to -50. So there's your domestic hot water deal. And so as long as you have boiler antifreeze in your system, I don't think the Aqua Hot cares if this domestic water line is ruptured or not. It doesn't even know that there's water in it. You may be able to fix it. What we found on that unit that's in the picture is it was ruptured like in the middle. And for us to pull this apart, make the mend, and put it back together would have never been right, because they have this heat transfer mastic compound that they slather all over the tank, and then they wrap this stuff around it and pack all the insulation on top of that. And Aqua Hot was never going to tell us what that mastic compound is. It's not the same stuff we use for refrigerator cooling units. But so anyway, if it's draining water and you've ruptured your water, fine. But where you got to be careful is to make sure that it didn't rupture into the tank. We did do an Aqua Hot, gosh, it's like a year or two ago, where it did freeze and the domestic water was mixing in with the boiler antifreeze. So where that one froze, breached the tank. Okay. Now the tubing going round and round is it's in the picture, but now they have them where the tubing is, if I'm not mistaken, the tubing actually goes inside the tank, and if you froze that, it's shot. You'd have to really go hard just trying to get that one fixed. So I'm gonna land my plane on that. Hopefully that answers. But you will know you've succeeded if you. How we knew we had the one we did the other like a year or two ago. There was the boiler antifreeze was very watery, so we knew that we had a breach, and the domestic hot water had breached into the boiler antifreeze, and they're supposed to be totally separate from each other. In other words, that is to say, if this Aqua Hot was off, nothing in it, you should put cold water in it, and cold water comes out. But if you put cold water in it and cold water comes out, but it's also starting to come out through your radiator cap and everything, you've got a breach, and all bets are off. Okay?
All right. And thank you, Tracy. She gave us a donation, and
thank you.
Just in case all of y'all want to know how to do that, there's, I think, like a little money sign or something on the bottom of your screen. So if we answer your question and it helps you and you want to give us a little bonus, you can do that. Or if our videos have helped you, so that's really nice. Thank you.
Tracy, T-R-A-C-Y?
Yeah. And then Ponytail Paul, I do have your question queued up, so we'll get to that. But as far as the Patreon, thank you for joining us over there. And that's your membership is automatic once you pay the monthly fee or whatever. And so you can look. We'll send a message to all of the patrons after this and give them a link for the exclusive live stream. We'll have more details at the end, but in case you're not here at the end of this live stream, you will get that message over on Patreon. And okay, let's go to the next question. So George says, and George, I think I've seen you, maybe you emailed me. I don't know. I've had a lot of people email and have different places. So if you need to add extra detail from what I have here, feel free to do that. But George says, Aqua Hot question, completed troubleshooting and repair to the 450D. With the new controller in the system, the on-off button flashes 3 times on diesel, then starts. When I put the old controller in, there are no issues. Actually, let me check my email. It might be in there too. Are you the one? I had one person that had an Aqua Hot issue that he said, like, they have just been, like, he's had a tech come out, I think, and anyways, and even Aqua Hot is stumped. So I thought, ooh, that would be fun.
I'd love to play with that one.
That is his. Yeah. Okay, so let me just give you.
So 3 blink. What's blinking? Where's it blinking? On the. Yeah. Is this the electronic control board or the recorder?
So let me just.
The electronic control
board.
Board.
Give you all the info. Let me bombard you with info.
I'd be curious if it's the electronic control board and what light is blinking, or is the light inside the on-off switch, burner, electric, preheat? What light's blinking?
Okay, so you can put that. It may be in here, but if not, go ahead.
And is it a red light or a green light?
Okay.
Okay.
So I am currently, I would like to ask if you have seen the Aqua Hot 450D did I say that already? 450D display 3 flashes of the on-off button before starting.
Off the top of my head, no, but I am curious about that. But no, off the top of my head, no. But if it's supposed to do that, then I would say read the fantastic manual, RTFM, because the manual is going to have a section in it where they give you all the diagnostic lights and what all the lights mean. So just because I don't know doesn't mean off the top of my head. If I needed to know, I would go look in the manual, and the manual would tell me what the status lights mean. Would be my answer to that. I have a lot of Aqua Hot knowledge, but that one I don't know what that one's blinking for.
Okay, so I am currently located, let's see, I'm just reading through all of the, okay, so he says, this year, approximately 2 months after my service, I'm assuming annual service, I would get, while running the diesel side, a non-stop flashing of the on-off button. No errors would be displayed on the Aqua Hot panel. I would have to cycle the on-off button to get the unit to start. So here's what he has troubleshot, okay? He replaced again the spray nozzle.
Okay.
He replaced the diesel high temperature thermostats, two of them.
Yeah.
He replaced the control thermostat.
Okay.
He installed a new controller box. And he
Wow,
says,
okay.
after installing the
That's a lot
new
of money.
controller box, I now get initially 3 flashes, then the system starts. Aqua Hot told me to replace the fuel sensor as some are bad and not compatible with the new controller.
Fuel sensor?
That's what it says.
Fuel sensor? I'm not aware of a fuel sensor. Anyway, carry on. Okay.
I did so, but today when testing the new controller, the same 3 flash error occurred. After the 3 flashes, the Aqua Hot would start. Oddly, after replacing the above parts and the errors from the new controller, I put the old controller back in the system, and it has run perfectly without a fault.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And so mainly he was just asking if you've come across the 3 flashing.
No.
But yeah, he said I think that like Aqua Hot had escalated it, and
That's
that
a
they weren't
lot of
even
money
sure
and parts that has been thrown at this thing. A lot of money.
So I think I got it all, George, but if you have extra detail, you can feel free to add it.
Bottom line, I'm not sure what the 3 blinks is telling us, because then you have on some systems, not necessarily Aqua Hot, but like a generator. Okay, it's going to blink. I don't think the Aqua Hot's like a generator, the status, but like if you have an on-end generator, and you might know this, but it's just going to constantly blink, 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 blink. You're supposed to hit the stop button 1 time, and then it'll give you a code. It'll be like blink, blink, pause, blink, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that was 2 blinks and then 5 blinks, pause, 2 blinks and 5 blinks, pause. Well, then that tells you code 25. And so you go to the on-end manual, you flip up code 25. But you know to look for that because it's just going to constantly blink. But I don't think that the Aqua Hot has that feature. I think that's an on-end thing. And then you have some refrigerators that will blink a pattern. They'll blink 3 times, pause, 3 times, pause, 3 times, pause. So then you have fast blinks and slow blinks. So there is an awful lot to be said about these blinks. If it's a fast blink, slow blink, and if it's all these types of things. But where are we going to find that? In the manual.
Yeah, he says, according to the service manual, it requires to count number of blinks
Okay, yeah.
and contact Aqua Hot. I did, and they have no answer. Could control
Really?
board be bad?
What's driving the blinks? It could be the control board, but I don't know that I'm going to just throw another part at this thing. If it was me, I know what Aqua has in a lot of their catalogs is the flow charts, and sometimes the flow charts are really good, sometimes they're worthless. But before we start throwing it sounds like you put a lot of money into these things. Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know what the 3 blinks means, but and if Aqua Hot doesn't know, I'm surely not going to go. They're the ones that trained me. But I went to school in 2016 for Aqua Hot, and now they've come out with their recorder, and I think they've got a couple new units out. And so yeah, I'm just not going to know off the top of my head. Sorry, it sounds fun. It'd be fun to play with because I like little electrical puzzles like that. But yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know what the 3 blinks means. So
All right.
I'm sorry.
So we've got another shout out to David. Thank you. He gave us a donation
Ooh,
too.
David.
And then Tracy, I don't know if y'all know each other because she said, "I'll see your $10 and I'll
wow.
raise you." So she did again too. So
Wow, two smiley
that's really
faces.
that's really
Cool.
sweet. Yeah.
Yay.
You
So
know,
you're going to make it on my board.
we
Yes.
are working on RV Tech Academy, some courses, and really trying to add value to you guys. And so all of that costs money, and we really appreciate any help that you give us. Thank you so much. Okay, so, and George says, I am sending the controller back for a refund.
Please, yeah.
Okay, Dave has a simple question. What is your preferred sealant for the sides of the trailer? I use Proflex, and I do not like open time and how sticky it becomes.
Okay. Yes, I like Proflex a lot. Now, a couple things on Proflex. It's my go-to. Okay, so if you were to look at my service trailer, you're going to find Proflex of all the different colors. Now, on our Amazon store, I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna find. So here's a couple things on Proflex. I'm gonna do I promise you, I'm gonna do a series of shop videos where I show you best practices on things. And one of those is gonna be working with this Proflex stuff, because you're right, it has a very short window of working with it. You get maybe 30 seconds, and then you're done. So there is some best practices to work with that. But the first thing I'm gonna say, here's your tube, okay? And then here's your little nozzle. That's not bad. And then you cut this off and you poke the thing. It's orange, okay? There's this little thing that has a little knob thing on it, and it's got this long straw thing. You stick that inside of this thing, and it's gonna snake itself down, and then you cap it off. Those are the best things I've found to keep any of my sealant tubes fresh. They're orange. I've seen them at Harbor Freight. I've got them on our Amazon store. So that's how you're gonna keep this stuff straight. Now, the other thing with the Proflex, I know it's very sticky, so mineral spirits is your friend there. Whereas with silicone, you might use soapy water or water to kind of give it that nice little curve or whatever. Mineral spirits, whenever I work with Proflex, I always have mineral spirits not too far around. I'm always going to wear gloves with these things because you get it on you, it's sticky and it's messy. Now, when I cut my tube end, this is where the video needs to come in. I'm going to cut it at a nice 45, okay? And then what I have found works really well, get some space to do some practice. So if you've got some old tubes laying around, use those for practice, and you're going to push the bead. Like if this was my caulk sealant gun, normally we have always gotten the habit of, I need to seal this thing, I'm going to pull the bead. But what I've found is if I do the right kind of curve right here, I push my bead. Okay, and when I push my bead, I'm controlling that flow. And I'm going to do a video to try to capture what I'm talking about here. But if I'm watching the puddle, so there's going to be a puddle. If you've ever done any welding, when you're welding, you're always looking at the puddle, and you're going to like make a puddle and fill it in and all this kind of stuff. But as you're pushing, you're going in this direction with it. As you're pushing, as long as there's a little puddle ahead of it, you don't have to worry about what the backside's going to do. Just keep that puddle there and keep a nice steady flow. What I'm saying this way is every once in a while, glance in the back. Every time I've developed this patented system of installing Proflex, it always does a beautiful bead. I never ever need to go back and touch it. So I do a water heater, do a furnace, and I need to do a thing. I'm always going to push my bead around the whole thing. It makes a perfect little curve. Do not touch it until it's dry. Give it 15 minutes and you'll peel it off. So I do want to do a video on these things because I like Proflex, but you're right. It's a very short window. It's extremely sticky, but it's awesome. It's what you want to seal the sides of your RVs. It's a really incredible product. GeoSeal makes some really, really amazing products. I don't even use Dicor anymore because GeoSeal, who makes a Proflex, they also have the self-leveling compound on your roof. And so the GeoSeal self-leveling EPDM type sealant stays nice and bright, whereas a Dicor, I've noticed it turns yellow after a couple of years. We do a forever warranty. We've got customers that do the forever warranty, so we have to go back every year. Great business, we just keep going back every year. And on one customer, we had to reseal his rear cap. Gosh, it's been like 4 years now. So he keeps having us come out every year, and I'm up there inspecting everything, and I look at the work that I did 4 years ago with the GeoSeal EPDM self-leveling everything. It still looks like the day I put it on 4 years ago. Still white, still crisp, still clean. I'm not knocking Dicor. Dicor is a great product. They invited us to the party, but I've done jobs with Dicor, and after 3 or 4 years, it does start to turn a little yellow. So I'm just going to say that. You do your own research on this. Get your customers where you keep going back year after year after year, and then kind of check out the work you did. Hey, that looks pretty good. But yeah, my go-to is going to be the GeoCell products. A real big fan of their products. And no, this is not sponsored by them. That's what I use. And but you can get it on our Amazon store. And that's my go-to. And big fan of GeoCell. One more thing, I'm also a fan of Vulkem, Vulkem. Now the Vulkem products, it's called 45SSL, 45SSL. These are going to be the big 28-ounce tubes. These are these big, gigantic tubes. But if I'm going to reseal a roof, that Vulkem 4500 SSL, it comes in all kinds of colors too. You're going to have to get the bigger gun for it. But I've done testing with that on all kinds of roof materials, and it sticks big time. This 45 SSL, you're going to get it from like a concrete manufacturing or a concrete supply house, because this is the stuff they put in the sidewalk cracks around a pool or whatever, okay? And the way I found out about this product is I bought a Pace cargo trailer. It's my black one. And I was up on the roof doing something. I think I was putting an air conditioner on or something. And I saw this stuff. I was touching it. I'm like, wow, that's bulletproof. What is that? So I actually called Pace. I'm like, what are you guys using for your stuff? Oh, we use Vulkem SSL 445. I'm like, really? And so I got a tube, played around with it. And I don't stock that because the big giant tubes are going to go bad before I use it. But if I was going to do a really big roof job, then the Vulkem 45 SSL will last you a lot longer than about 15 smaller tubes of the GeoCell. So I'm done with that. Okay, there's my go-to.
All right, so we've got more shout outs.
Yes?
Ponytail Paul, thank you very much.
Do I have to put more smiley faces?
Yes.
With Paul?
Ponytail Paul.
Ponytail Paul.
And then, well, Tracy, you already did, but you can give her another smiley face too.
Another? Oh, outstanding. Thank you, Tracy. Thanks, guys.
And yes, Paul, I do have your question queued up.
T-A-I-L or T-A-L-E? I'm dyslexic. I'm sorry.
T-A-I-L.
Okay,
I'm assuming he's got a ponytail.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
And my dad's name is Paul, so
Okay.
that's a great name.
So I'm liking my smiley face. Thanks, guys. This is fun. Thank you.
Okay, so let me get back to
Oh, that
our
was my
next-
knee. Oh my gosh, did y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get my
Okay.
tea? A little sip of tea?
Doug says, on a 12-volt refrigerator, can bad batteries cause it to have no power? Have a Furrion residential 12-volt. Oh, residential.
Furrion resident. Okay.
It apparently has a low voltage shutoff.
Okay, so on those, the brain of the control board, I don't think it cares what kind of batteries you have, but I believe it's at around 10, 10.3. I'm trying to channel my inner knowledge of the manual. I'm going to go with 10.3 because it sounds more nerdy. The control board will basically shut itself off if it's around 10.3, but there's a number in the tens. So whether it's your battery, your converter, whatever, if that control board does not see somewhere in the tens, it will shut down. It's not just your refrigerator, water heaters, furnaces, all those types of things, and even your LP alarm might start beeping at you. So yes, the boards do have a low voltage cutout. And guess where we find that? In the manual. On the manual, in the beginning couple pages, they're going to have all the specifications of their product. And they're going to have like minimum voltage, maximum voltage, because there's also a maximum voltage for DC and AC. Another place you can find that, because I'm the guy that read these things, again on our website, myriverworks.com, under the resources tab, you're going to find, I don't know what I called it, it's been a while, annual service sheets, something like that, annual service sheets. So you'll print out the one for a refrigerator, and that's what you should do every single year. I got one on water heaters, furnaces, and refrigerators. So in that sheet that I have, it's a PDF you can print out. I try to keep it all to one page. You just walk around, do it every year. I do have the minimum and maximum values on that sheet as well as a free PDF download. And that's what you're supposed to do every single year. I think the water heater is like a 2-pager, but I couldn't figure out how to get it to a 1-page, and I just gave up. So print front and back.
Oh, and this Doug says it's totally dead. I guess his refrigerator.
So, okay, so it, well, here's a fun thing. We were talking earlier about using my battery pack for my drill. Okay, so I use 12 volt tools. So see if your battery pack off your 12 volt drill. Get your little test lead thing that I do, my little test lead set, and take your 12 volt battery, connect it to your control board, and see if the thing springs to life. Now, so see if that's it. We started at the very, very beginning when we opened up tonight. We talked about one of the furnaces I worked on today because I was in the field before I came out here. I clean up pretty good. But I was getting 12 volts at the furnace, but as soon as there was a call for heat, the voltage dropped to 0. Long story short, we found out that there was a fuse that had blown, and I kept that fuse, and I'm going to be showing that fuse in a video. Like, we got to come up with a name for that. We got our worst call series we came out with. You going to tell about that?
Well, it's over on Patreon, but sure,
on Patreon, we started. I'm off on a rabbit trail. We started a whole new series on our Patreon channel called Worst Calls, and we had to temper it with best calls. But we're going to tell you our worst calls. So we started off with a guy that pulled a gun on me. Wow, go learn about that one over on Patreon side. So, but here was a fuse, and I might worst calls, best calls, and strange calls. I don't know, but anyway, we're going to come with things. This fuse had blown. But it had blown in such a way that it was allowing voltage to pass through. So like a little whisker or something was still touching both sides. So I was able to get a voltage reading, but no current would pass through the fuse. But it looked fine. So anyway, yes, the control board wants to see a minimum maximum voltage, DC, or it just simply won't work. You can take jumper cables off your car, bring it up there, and try to feed it and see if that doesn't fix it. See if that fixes it. Now, if you've confirmed you're giving it 12 volts, there's a fuse on onboard fuse on your motherboard of that control board. Make sure that fuse is good, so take a meter and verify that it's passing through. But yeah, you're going to need at least let's say 11 or above on voltage on that.
Okay. And thank you to Riley. Shout out.
Another?
Riley.
A smiley face. This is awesome, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
And Dave says, just a quick question. I'm full-time. Okay. Temp will drop -6 or -17 degrees this week if I keep... okay, Dave, you might have to redo your question because I'm not sure if I can really read it, but I'll just read it as it is and maybe we can. Okay. If I keep area where fresh tank is warm with a full 23-gallon tank lines to the water heater, not freeze, water heater on.
Okay. My first answer to you, sir, you would really benefit. I have so many resources on our website. So anybody who's staying in their RV during the wintertime, your best friend is going to be my seminar notes. So where I want you to go is myrvaworks.com, resources tab again, blog, page 2 of the blog. I used to blog before we did the YouTube channel, so this blog goes back to the 2014 timeframe. So you're going to go to the second page of my blogs, and you're going to go down. You're going to find one that says something like Darren's Seminar Notes for Winter Camping. Okay? If we were to print that out, I don't know how many pages that is, but we would do these 18-hour seminars. No. Basically what that is a collection of information that I've gathered because Ann and I, full-time for 16 years, we've been through 2 Buffalo winters, a 40 below Wyoming, all kinds of cold environments. And so these are our best practices of things that we came up with and we did, and then we picked up on other people to really enjoy winter camping. So that's your first thing. Go to my blog. It's under the resources tab somewhere. It's on page 2, I know that. And just start reading through that, and there's all kinds of information. I don't even have it in my head. I wrote it down, and when I would do a seminar, I would just pick a couple topics and talk about that. But if people wanted more, I had all the other stuff. So as far as keeping your fresh tank from freezing, that's going to be, 20 gallons of water? It's going to take a lot of cold to freeze up something like that. But you're going out to, I hear he said 17. Keep your water heater on. Keep your battery warm. Keep your propane cylinders warm. Because if your propane cylinders start getting cold, they won't vaporize.
I know, we put a little heater underneath.
Yep. Heated blanket. I actually have tank heaters for your propane cylinders, but you need to keep the propane warm or it's not going to vapor off. We need to consume it as a vapor. So just a bunch of blankets or something just to keep it the metal side from being exposed. Just put it in blankets. I've had people put like chicken coop lights in there, heated blanket. There's a lot of information in that multi-page seminar notes thing. And I could probably add more to it if I think about it, because I woke up in an RV today. We bought a house. The RV's next to the house. The kids have the house. We have the RV. I like my RV. But anyway, now when the kids move out, I get the house. But so yeah, it's all about. And so then there's a couple different types of heat tape. The kind that I use allows you to tie a knot in the thing, but the kind of heat tape that you get at the hardware stores, you can't cross it over itself. I think there's a link on that for the heat tape that I use. Basically, you buy a long roll of it and you put your own end on it. You can customize it however you want to. And then there's tank heaters. All that's in those notes, all my seminar notes. Can I?
Yeah, so that's how to winter camp.
It's called Darren's Seminar Notes on Winter Camping or something along those lines. It's something I uploaded in 2014 or 2015 or something like that.
Okay.
But the information's still good.
All right, so
Prices have gone up on parts, though.
we've got shout out to Skill Above Testers. Wow.
Oh boy.
I think you're also over on Patreon.
How does that one get spelled?
Skill, like you got skills.
Skill above.
Above.
Oh, above. Okay.
Testers, Inc.
Yeah, they're in Texas.
Oh, you know what they are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
hey,
they're on
outstanding.
our Patreon.
Yay, outstanding. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, I love his stuff.
Yeah,
Cowden
I
and
know.
Wampler and all that kind of stuff. Outstanding.
We'll just keep going live if y'all are going to do this. We'll
Yay, yeah.
fundraise for RVTA. Okay.
Outstanding. Fantastic. Hey guys, love your stuff. Yeah.
And then
on a board to draw
That's okay, guys. Seriously, we're gonna run out of board here. Come on. I need a bigger board. Yeah.
And then we've got a cool update. So Vonda, she was one of the first earlier questions.
Okay.
About the electrical, like she.
Yes.
Yeah, she said I found the problem. The white wire is burned so bad it's not even hooked up, and there's the other white wires that's burned too.
Fantastic.
So
yeah.
I mean,
glad you found it. Sorry
news,
that happened.
But it's nice to have that resolved, or at least know the problem.
The cool thing about
knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, knowing is half the battle. The cool thing about the metal box. Okay, so here's what the code is going to say, and that's why AC is different than DC. On the AC, there could be a huge 5-alarm fire inside that junction box. As long as the fire does not escape the box, it's fine. Okay, so that's why in your RV, now here's where I want you to be careful on overwhelmingly the bell curve of this is if you're working in your RV and the wire is stranded, stranded wire, it's gonna be DC. If the wire is a solid core like a Romex, it's gonna be AC. Not all the time, but the bell curve. So if you have a DC splice, if you've got two DC wires and they're coming together, you need to tie them together, then fine. Connect them, throw them on the wall, you're good to go. But if it's an AC and you got to connect two ACs, that must be inside of an enclosure. You cannot just put wire nuts on a Romex wire and throw it on the wall. That is wrong. Don't ever do that. And so in my service trailer, I've got little handy boxes. Just go to Home Depot, Lowe's, get a bunch of little handy boxes. These are those little metal boxes. Get some strain reliefs and some covers, and that's where you're going to go. I have thrown away all of my wire nuts. In fact, the job I did today, I was finishing it up. When I ran home, got cleaned up a little bit. That's with this fuse problem. It threw me for a loop because I'm getting 12 volts at the furnace, and then it died. I'm like, am I chasing a ground problem? And I'm looking at a ground. I'm like, the first thought was not to go check the fuse because, the first thing I did was, do I have voltage here? Yep, got 12 volts. Okay, it's not the fuse. And so I started doing the other things. Anyway, my point, where was I going with this? Squirrel. The point there was the fuse, the WAGO connectors. They're little orange, little gate things. Love the WAGO connectors. Do not like the spring clamp connectors that are not WAGO. WAGO, AE, whatever. There are some aftermarket spring clamp connectors that are not the WAGO style, and they're absolute crap. I'm sorry. So the ones I stock, pay a couple extra bucks. Get the ones that are made by, I don't know if it's a long A or a short A, Wago. There's a vowel that ends with the O. That makes, if the vowel ends with the O, that makes it a long vowel sound or a short vowel sound. I'm going to say Wago. You could say Wago, Wago. I don't know. Yeah, so that's how I fixed this customer's problem, because what had happened, the wire nut had fallen off, and the wire's bare, and it was touching the metal cage. It must have done it in such a way that it blew the fuse, but in such a way that the fuse blew, and a little strand of wire was still touching, allowing voltage to go through, no current. So clean it all up, cut all the stuff on. So what you're going to need to do, well, you're going to get 30 amps. So Wago makes them that are rated for 30 amps. These are going to be the 6. The part number's got a 6 in it. So they're rated for 30 amps. So anyway, the spring clamps I'm a big fan of. I don't like the wire nuts. Another video you're going to like, I don't know exactly where it is. If you go to our playlist and look on the electrical playlist, I did do a video a while back on how electricity works. Super exciting. And so you might have fun watching that video on how electricity works. Give a couple interesting analogies on how electricity works, okay? And so that might help get your head around what's going on in your junction box. Okay, I'm done with that. More questions?
Okay, just really quickly, can you write the name of the 2 sealers you were talking about on the whiteboard, the names of those products?
If I don't drop my pen. Proflex?
Yeah,
okay, I'm going to use blue.
Geosil,
If I have any room left, so Proflex, Geosil is the manufacturer of Proflex.
And then,
You said Vulcan.
Okay, and then I don't know who makes, I think Vulcan makes Vulcan, so I think I'm going to spell it phonetically.
Vulkem.
Vulkem, and you want 45 SSL. The SSL is a self-leveling kind. But Vulkem 45 SSL is like the big tube. But if you're doing a big job, now mileage may vary, so you got to buy a big tube. But before you commit to doing the entire roof, do a little sample spot to make sure. There's a roof out there. I don't know if it's TPO or what, but we did a whole roof with this, and we came back a couple days later, and it didn't stick to it. But it's only happened to me once. Every other roof I've ever done with the Vulcan, you're going to rip the roof to get it off. And so what my thinking was that product was old or bad, and it lost its ability to stick. So yeah, these things, I keep them in, what I do in my service trailer, I've got an ice chest. And so you get a nice ice chest, and you can take, I believe it's 1 1/4 inch, but you can verify 1 1/4 inch EMT, electrical metallic tubing, take your chop saw, cut them up on like little sleeves, like on the side of a helicopter to shoot stuff. And the tubes fit down inside of these little metal sockets. And then you get an aquarium heater. And you take an aquarium heater and you put it in snaked around all the tubes and fill it in with little sand or whatever. And then you plug that in. So every night I bring my service truck home, plug it in, and it charges my batteries and everything. But I'm keeping that aquarium heater heated in my ice chest with all my sealant in it. And then so then when I go out, all that sand and gravel stays warm around those little metal tubes. And then you've got these little spots to leave all your little smaller tubes in to keep them from freezing. Because once this stuff freezes, just throw it away. It's worthless. Anyway, so I think the time that it didn't stick, it was just an old one that maybe froze, I'm thinking.
okay, I'm going to have a really quick question, and then we're only about halfway through, and we have
I'll go really fast. No.
So
yes.
so our
15.
Patreon will probably be a little bit late, but we'll
Okay.
work to answer everybody's questions. So really quickly, what was the Wago? Do they have Wagos for 6-gauge wires? Wago.
No.
Wago in German.
Wago. Okay. I think not. I think the biggest they have is the Wago that starts Wago, because it is a German company. The biggest one is rated for a 30 amp, and 30 amp stops at a 10-gauge wire. So if you're going to go with that, then they have. If I was going to do that, what are they called? I did a solar job once, and they're these. It's a side tangent.
We got to go.
Yeah.
Actually, we're only a
the biggest
third
they have
of
is
the
10
way.
gauge.
So,
Okay.
Darren's going to have a lot of questions to answer in a short amount of
All
time.
right,
Okay, John, I know you have 2 questions. I'm going to break them up, so I'll ask this one now and then the other one later
I'm gonna go
on.
fast, guys. I'm gonna try my best.
Fast but thorough. Fixed my furnace, but have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. Next.
Yeah, and some of this was like in 2 different emails, and so it's, yeah. But my Suburban NT30 had gas valve issues. Here's what I found. The valves are rated for 0.13 amps.
No, I need the right 0.13.
Okay, which means that the solenoids should be around 80 ohms each.
I'm just gonna trust you on this.
Well, let me just ask you the question first, and then I can give you the detail if you
We
want.
could do Ohm's law to figure
His
this out.
question is, what is the difference between the low amp ones and the higher amp ones of, okay, let me read the whole question. And wondering if the relay on the board can take 0.8 amps. I don't want to burn out an expensive board. That's
Okay.
one.
Board
And
doesn't
then-
care.
Okay. And
Board's
then,
gonna send 12 volts to this thing. It doesn't care what the amperage is.
okay, so I'll just read the whole thing so it makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so my water heater solenoids, we'll assume all the calculations are correct, are rated for 0.4 amps, which are 27 ohms each. Both are correct. Ohm's law calculates out the amp draw correctly.
Okay.
I pulled the heater out again and tested the valve. First the rear solenoid, nice click, then the front one, weak click, still 80 ohms. So I put on one of the solenoids from my water heater on the front valve, nice click. The furnace works.
Yes.
The amp draw for the 2.13 amp solenoids is 0.26 amps.
I'm ignoring the numbers because my body wants to do the calculations, but carry on.
Yeah. The amp draw for the 2.4 amp solenoids is 0.8 amps. My question is, first, which you answered, wondering if the relay on the board can take 0.8 amps. I don't want to burn out an expensive board.
Yes.
And 2, what is the difference between the low amp and the higher amp?
Huh. Okay, let me jump in and do this one quickly. Solenoid, okay, I'm going to erase the numbers. I wasn't listening to the numbers, but the engineer in me wants to play with the numbers, but I'm not gonna because I got to go fast. In our water heater playlist, we did a water heater. I don't remember which one it was, but my son was with me that day, and I was explaining to him how solenoids work, and then I decided, hey, let's make a video of this. And I had the solenoid, okay, and I took a little metal screwdriver and I stuck it right there, and then I energized the solenoid and the screwdriver sucked in. Okay, so the solenoid's going to create a magnetic field. Bottom. Done. Moving on to the next point. So find that video and you'll see the demonstration. As far as the ohms and the voltage and all that kind of stuff, I stock 2 types of solenoids in my service trailer. You can get those from our Amazon affiliate store. One is for like Atwood products and one's for Suburban products. And honestly, don't judge me, I don't really care what the ohms and voltages are. Because every time one of these solenoids has failed, you're going to basically you're going to read the deal on the side to do your Ohm's law to find out if it's a pass or fail, okay? And then I put the new solenoids on. The reason I stock 2 types of solenoids is because their form factors are different, okay? But that same solenoid will go on my water heater, same solenoid goes on my furnace, okay? Now for your air conditioners, the solenoids are different, overwhelmingly. They're more square, okay? So if the solenoid for your water heater works on your furnace, fantastic. I do it all the time. As far as the control board's sending 12 volts to this. It could care less what the amperage is to run these things. So I think you're good there, okay? So I'm going to stop to go to the next question because I could go on for another 5 minutes, but I know I'm going to stop myself.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. So let's see. Alexander had, I think he's a tech.
Yay. I
So
like techs.
N8VF
I resemble that.
Norcold.
Wait, what was it again?
N8.
N8. Okay, I got it. N8.
So
yep.
the customer complained about the Norcold fridge won't work on AC, just LP. I took a voltage reading and was 121 VAC.
Yep.
Checked the control board and there was a burned out resistor above the AC fuse.
Okay.
We replaced the board and 2 days later the resistor burned up again.
Okay.
I checked the heating element and it came out to 300 watts, just as the inside of the fridge says it should be.
I'm going to come back to that. Okay.
Around 2.5 watts for 120 VAC.
Yes. So the Ohm's law is working out, but I do have a follow-up question to that. Okay, go ahead.
The label on the outside of the control board says output 120 VAC is 8 amps.
Okay, yeah.
That's
yeah.
960 watts.
Okay.
So I'm confused about that. After pondering on this and very lost, I remembered I also had to replace the microwave around the same time.
Okay.
So maybe it's the inverter, and then he has some little extra. The heating element ran 2.5 amps, not watts. Okay, so around
Okay.
2.5 amps.
About 40 ohms ballparky. Does it give me a ohms value when it's at room temperature? Check your ohms of your heating element when it's at room temperature. It should come in the neighborhood of the 40s, plus or minus. Now, here, let me. There may be more, but let me just talk about this for a second.
Okay.
He's already replaced this lower control board, and then it burned up again.
Checked the control board and there was a burned up resistor, but
And then he replaced it and it burned up
and
again.
2 days later the resistor burned up again. Yeah.
Okay, I would really have a look at that heating element. So here's the thing on the heating elements. The heating element that you're testing in that refrigerator might follow all of the Ohm's law's values. But the question I have is it the correct heating element for that refrigerator? I cannot tell you how many times I've been called in to work on a refrigerator on the AC side, and it's either freezing everything or it's not keeping warm, it can't keep up. And if you go and you test everything with what you're looking at, everything tests out. But then when you go one step farther and you look up the spec for the heating element for that refrigerator, you find out that the last guy that worked on it, he just pulled one off the shelf, stuck it in there, and sent him down the street. And it wasn't the right one. So I think I heard him say something like 300 watts. Maybe it's supposed to be 250 watts. Maybe it's supposed to be 180 watts. So we need to verify that the heating elements that we're putting in these refrigerators are the ones that are spec'd for that refrigerator. All heating elements are not the same. So if the heating element, so again, you're there, there's a heating element, you do your Ohm's law, your Watt's law, voltage, everything, it's reading perfectly for that heating element. But my question is that the heating element for that refrigerator? Because they all look the same, they all fit in the same spot. So if you're supposed to have like 180 watt and you're putting a 300 watt, that might be burning up your board. So the first thing I would do in a situation like that, if it's burned up my board, even though your heating element is testing correctly, take a second, look up a manual. We got a lot of manuals on our website, under the resources tab again. And I know I got the Norcold N8 in there. I reference it frequently. Then check to make sure that the heating element that's in there is the correct one. Okay, that would be my big answer for that. Now, and then also, it's unfortunate that your board burned up again. And so here would be what I would say to that, and then we'll keep going. I might go ahead and replace that heating element anyway, because there may be some resistance being built up inside of that thing that's feeding back on the AC side, causing that resistor to blow. Okay, the resistor is there to resist current, and it's resisting too much, and it's burning itself up. So it might be something with that heating element. So what is it? 30, 40 bucks. Put a new heating element in the thing. You're going to have to put a new board on there, and make sure that the heating element you put in is not the same one that came out, but make sure it's the right one. It might be the right one, but there's something wrong with the resistance on it. Just for fun, what I've done, and I've got it in a video, I haven't published it yet, is I cut one of the heating elements in half to see, well, what's in one of these things? And it's just a little wiry thing like you'd find in an incandescent light bulb with like some little powdery stuff in there. So it glows red hot like a toaster oven or something, but it's in an insulated thing. But maybe something's wrong there. Maybe it had a bad day. So
Okay.
that's my thought there. So I'm gonna try to go fast to get to more.
Okay. And I don't know if it makes a difference, but he does say it was a brand new 2022 fridge. It came with the rig.
Okay, so 2022. Okay, so we can assume the heating element's the correct one, but if it's burning out that resistor, there's something wrong there.
Would you think it was the inverter or any reason why?
Okay, so if you're going through the inverter, could it have worked the other way? So let's say your inverter, so you're running on an inverter. The inverter, it could, if you go that way.
Or any commonality between this and
So
the
you're not on
microwave?
shore power. You're not on shore power. That's why you would run an inverter. So you have a battery bank, maybe solar, and you're going through your inverter and you're heating up a heating element. And you're there. So, okay, on the inverter, is it a modified sine wave or a pure sine wave is my first thing. Certainly most inverters can handle the 2 amps that the heating element's going to give.
It says NPS 4500. Is that pure sine or?
I don't know
Okay.
the part number.
Okay.
I don't know the part number. So let's say you're supposed to have a modified. You've got a modified. It's supposed to be pure. That's going to generate heat on the board. But it's interesting.
Oh, maybe
the
this.
resistor.
Maybe you can. He just says, I don't know how to check for duty voltage without a scope.
Yeah, and that's where I wanted to stay away from the oscilloscope, but I've got an oscilloscope in my shop, and overwhelmingly with the inverter, if it's a good inverter, now if it's one of these, we have done a job where the inverter was supposed to put out like 3,000 watts, and it was one of these Chinese cheap ones. It wasn't even close. And it was half the price of like a Xantrex or a Magnum. This thing was half the price, and it promised all the same features. And we ran that on the bench, and it wasn't even close. And I'm like, send this thing back. Send it all the way back to China, you know? And so you'd call the manufacturer like, oh, we did not know, sorry. So in my mind, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's a relationship? If the inverter is doing what the inverter is supposed to do, then no, it would not burn up the board. That's what the fuse's job is. The fuse is to protect that. So that's why I was going from the downstream side up, but the upstream side, meaning the resistor that's burning is the middle point of our seesaw. So if we're going downstream and the heating element was bad, that's downstream of our problem. Make sure that's good. Upstream of the problem from that resistor is the inverter. If it's supposed to be a pure sine wave and it's getting its perfect little AC sine wave, then the resistor is nice and happy. But if it's getting a modified sine wave, then the resistor may not be happy. It might generate modified sine waves. Great, wonderful, fantastic, but you got to know what you're running with it. They'll generate a lot of heat because that little sine wave is more stair-steppy up and down, and not a thing, not pure. Now, if for these types of things, and if they're really strange, I have a bunch of data loggers. And again, I've got a whole, I keep talking about my Amazon affiliate links, but I've got a whole category there for data loggers. And so if you're going to be an RV tech, I'd love for you guys to have data loggers, because some of these strange anomaly things that you can't detect right then and there, they happen over time. Throw a data logger on the thing, let it sit there for a couple of days, and then come back, and then you really get to see when you can look at this thing over like a period of time. I don't have the time, but I could tell a wonderful story about a refrigerator we had to diagnose. And it's because a lady goes to the farmer's market on Fridays, and she puts all of her produce in the refrigerator, and it messes up the refrigerator for like 4 or 5 days. And she never could figure it out. But anyway,
okay. All right, let's move on.
I'm nervous because I'm taking too much time. So let's. Yeah.
It's okay. Well, maybe we just need to adjust our times and give ourselves a little more wiggle room
5
between
hour on
YouTube and Patreon. Okay, Tracy says, what would cause the hot water to work in gas mode but not in electric mode? Just bought my first RV with, waiting on delivery for this to be fixed.
Okay.
What may cause hot water to work in the gas mode, not work in electric, and then not work at all?
Is this a Suburban or an Atwood or Dometic?
Oh, yeah, important.
I need to know if it's Suburban because a troubleshooting path is different from a Suburban to a Dometic.
So Tracy, why don't you go ahead and add that information? We'll move on to the next question. And
Yeah,
then we'll
come back to you, but I need to know if it's Suburban because that follows one path, Dometic follows another path.
Okay, so John says, I have a question on my propane fill valve. As the store was trying to fill the tank, there was a loud snap. After that, they could not fill it anymore. Today, the guy thinks the rod we can see in the fill hole is the safety shutoff. I have had it filled once since I owned it with no issues. There is a push button on the bottom that does move the rod up, but it won't stay up, nor do I know how far it should go. I had to squeeze it up using channel lock pliers, and it seemed to only go flush with the housing. And I do have a picture if you want to see it.
So it sounds to me this is an AMSE tank, not a DOT cylinder.
I have a picture if you want.
Let me see. Yeah, okay, that's an AMSE tank. Okay, so there's that. Yeah, there's a lot of safety features built into those things. Because of that, I would replace that entire service valve, but you have to do that. You have to be licensed and all this. So the DOT cylinders need to be inspected in Canada every 10 years, in the United States 12 years for the first inspection, and then 5 years every year after. And they're going to be pulling that service valve, looking at, I counted 13 different safety features built into a service valve on a DOT cylinder. And you do want to inspect those, thank you very much. The AMSE tank doesn't need to be certified, like the DOT cylinders do. But if that service valve goes bad, why risk running down with a faulty service valve? So would a shop / dealership be able to make that replacement, or would you be better off trying to find a up here it's Feral Gas or AmeriGas, one of these big places that might have a shop that can do that for you? Because you're going to need to drain all the propane out of that before you do that, and there's procedure. So that's kind of scary. I hesitate to say, oh yeah, just put some duct tape on it, because that's a safety thing, and I want you guys to be safe. So I hesitate saying anything other than replace the service valve. But make sure you get it done correctly. I'd hate, because that is such an important thing. Worst case, it leaks out, and now you just paid all this money to have your tank filled, now it's leaking. But that's a service valve, it's a safety valve. Let's be smart and get that fixed, because I don't want you guys to like either A, blow up, or B, which is a more likely thing, would be it leaks and now you have propane poisoning and you stop breathing because the hydrogen replaces the oxygen in your body. We don't want to do that.
Okay.
That's my short answer.
On that note, we'll
Yeah.
move to...
I love you guys. I don't want anything bad to happen to you.
All right. Roger says, hi, I have a Class A, and my tankless water heater is not warming up all the time when using only the hot water valve. It started when taking a shower and ran out of water. Any idea?
Two questions I have for you there is, what is the, who makes your OD, on-demand water heater?
Yeah.
And was it added after, or did it come from the manufacturer with it installed?
Okay, so Roger, if you want to
Let me
answer
know,
those questions,
is it a
and we'll come back.
Gerard, is it a Truma, is it a Nautilus? Troubleshooting's a little different on some of those, and we got some videos on those as well. And then was it added later, and then or did it come with it? And let me know those things, and then I'll do my best to answer that one.
Okay.
Because that tells me which way to go. I don't want to go this way when it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah, so we do need the manufacturer and the model number of your appliance when you're asking questions. So if you haven't done that,
the biggest thing was it added after, or did it come with it? That's the biggest answer you could give me, and that'll tell me where your problem might be.
Okay, and here's Ponytail Paul.
Yay!
Here's his question, okay?
Right.
I have an Atwood 8535
Oh, 85. Okay, wow, that's an old one. Okay.
furnace that wasn't working. Using your videos, I figured out that I wasn't getting a spark.
Okay.
I removed and replaced the igniter.
Okay.
The problem I now have is that it will fire up and run for about 5 to 7 seconds, kick off,
Yep.
then after a few more seconds it will fire up again and then kick out,
Yep.
and it will do it a third time.
Okay.
After that, I get 3 flashing lights on the
Yes.
circuit board. I turn off the switch on the furnace and it goes through the same stuff again and again.
Your board is not detecting the flame. So that's what's happening. That means that you, human, can see the ignition. You see the flame, everything's working. It's not a cell switch problem, because if it was a cell switch problem, you would never have ignition in the first place. The fact that you're getting ignition tells us it's not the cell switch, it's not the high temperature switch, everything's fine. So you have ignition, and it's actually 6.8 seconds is what these things rate for. Where they get that from, I don't know, but it's something I read in a manual, and I like stuff like this. So if the board cannot detect the flame within 6.8 seconds, it's going to shut off the gas valve. So your problem, Ponytail Paul, is it's either the gap. Let's start with the burner head. It's either the gap. You need to be 1/8 of an inch. You need to rectify the flame. Okay, so the gap, take an Allen key, 1/8 of an inch Allen key, just kind of slide it between the probe and the burner head. That reminds me, I have to have another question, because you said it's an 85 model. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. So you need 1/8 of an inch gap right there. Okay, it could be the electrode going into the ceramic. I've got a video on one that's like a loose tooth. That's not good. Rarely the wire goes bad, but sometimes the wire goes bad, or it could be the control board. But the bottom line is that your board is not detecting the flame, and that is why the thing keeps dying on you. Now, this is the next important thing. You said you had an 85 series. The 85 series is an obsolete series, and what they've done, from what I'm understanding, is they have destroyed the actual machines that make those burner heads, because they basically want to make this model obsolete and make you go buy a DF series, a DFM, DFL, DFS series furnace. Because these 85, what is it, 8530 something?
8535.
8535. Be careful, because if you buy the burner head, let's say your burner head burned a hole in it. We had one of these just a couple days ago. The burner head, you take the burner out and you could see a little meshy screen and it had a hole burned in it, and you know, so wonderful, great. We're going to go to Amazon.com. We're going to buy ourselves a new burner head, put it in there. What I want you to do is, this is the burner head that was original material, okay? Hold those two up side by side to each other. What you're going to find is that those burner heads, sometimes the holes on the mesh are bigger or smaller. You've got the burner's going to come out and then make a little angle down. Look at your angles of your thing. There's a little metal plate where the top of the burner goes solid metal before it gets to the little screen part. If you look at these things, you know what I'm talking about. Those change. Look inside of it. You'll see a little throat inside of these things. And just because you got one that says it's going to work for the 85 doesn't mean it will. The 85 model has been out since 1985. The 89 since 1989. That's that year model that they were introduced into the market. So they've been out for a long time. In 1985, I was in 11th grade. Graduated in 86. So where were you in 85 and 86? Okay.
Toddling around.
You youngins, right? So they need to end that model number. So what I mean by that is, tell me again, 8535? 8530 something? 8530? The 8535 has been out for a long, long time. And so over that period of time, they've made changes to it. It's still an 8535, but the serial number is where you need to say, okay, well, from serial numbers from here to there, it's going to be this part number. From serial numbers from here to here, it's going to be this part number. It's still an 8535, but the serial number changes. And that's how you're going to know what part goes on where. That's why it's so important when you go get a part for any appliance in your RV, you need to know the model number and the serial number. So where are you going to go to find the part? PanTerraSales.com. PanTerraSales.com. They're in Fort Worth, Texas. So you're going to go to PanTerraSales.com. They're a wholesaler, so if you could still use their website, but you can only buy them if you have an account with them from a wholesale side. But on PanTerraSales.com, you go down to the bottom of their page there. You're going to see like a quick lookup thing. I'm going from memory here. You're going to click that, and you're going to see this big catalog, 240-something pages long, of all of your exploded views, okay? So it's all alphabetical: A for Atwood, D for Dometic, C for Coleman, S for Suburban. So that's how they have it organized. So I click the button to open everything up. You're going to go down to your Atwood, okay, furnaces under A, and you're going to try to find that exploded view, and you're going to find your 8535 on the column going this way, and little X's going on this way, the burner head over this way, like this crisscrossy thing. That's how you're going to find the correct part number. Go search for that part number and see if you can find that. Okay?
All right.
PanTerraSales.com for your exploded views.
So for Tracy, I don't know we're going to be able to answer your exact question, although...
Is it this, Tracy?
Yeah.
I'll give it my best. What's the question?
Well, no, she was the one we were going to circle back to if she
Okay.
gave her manufacturer model number.
For the water heater?
Yeah, but I think we'll...
Not working on AC.
Yeah. Well, I'll read you the question again. But I thought what might be helpful for her and for other people is for you to kind of explain.
Okay.
She's not sure, what's Suburban, what's Atwood, what do you mean by
okay.
that? And so
Okay.
maybe just give an explanation on that, and then I'll read the question and see.
Well, then, yeah, let me take Suburban first. Okay, so let's follow the trail.
Just starting off. So it's like if you were to, you have your home and your oven breaks, and you go to the store and you buy an oven, and you decide, I really like General Electric GE, so I'm going to buy a GE, and you want to buy the latest and greatest model, and it's a, 8525 is what it's called.
Okay.
So it's just, when we're talking about Atwood or Suburban, we're talking about the manufacturer, so like a General Electric GE kind of appliance or whatever, and we're talking about the model number, it's, like that specific model. And so knowing that helps us to know which way we're going to troubleshoot. And so if you don't have, if you're not in the RV and you can't just look and see what the nameplate says, and if you don't have, if you have the paperwork, if it's original to it, you could look in that paperwork and it should tell you what the model is. The problem is if they've upgraded or put in a different appliance, unless you have the manual, you wouldn't know. Or if you had it you know, if you could go look at the nameplate, then you would know. But yeah, so what would cause the hot water to work in gas mode but not in electric mode? That's
Okay, I'll take it from there.
Okay.
So I just kind of drew a quick picture of a Suburban and an Atwood. Okay, Dometic has now bought Atwood, and they've come out with their own new series of water heaters, Dometic water heaters. They're modeled similar to the Atwoods, but they've changed. Thank you, Dometic, for putting the heating element on the front of your water heater. Really big thank you for that. So so you could tell by looking at the front, the biggest telltale sign is if you take off your little cover thing and you have like a little control board in the upper right hand corner, okay, that is going to be an Atwood. Dometic. If you have a Suburban, then you're not going to have any control board on it. You're going to see like this little black box here with two little kind of rubber push-in things, and then you're going to have your gas valve here, but down at the bottom you're going to have this little black thing. That's where your heating element is. Okay, so let's follow the trail. Okay, so now I have a lot of water heater videos where I go through a lot of this. So you go to a water heater playlist, and I know I've answered the question there. So Suburban, we're going to follow the trail. Okay, so Suburban water heater, here we go. So on the, here's our Suburban water heater. On the upper corner of it, you got to go inside of the water heater. You're going to have a junction box right there. Okay, so there's a junction box. That's where the Romex wire from the RV manufacturer ties in to the 120 volt wire of your water heater. That is going to come down to a switch down here. Okay, sometimes these switches go bad. I stock them. They're like $12. I go through several switches a month because the switches go bad. So if it's a Suburban, it very well could be the switch. After it leaves a switch, you need to take off this cover with the two little pushy button things in here. The one on the left side is your AC. The one on the right side is your DC. They are not interchangeable. Okay. You'll notice if you look at them, the prong that plugs in, one's big, one's small. I call it skinny and fat. Okay. So I come into my junction box. I go down through my switch. I leave my switch. And then up in here, I'm going to go through the thermostat and the ECO. It's energy cutout. We call it emergency cutoff. So I come in through these two little, you took the cover off, and you need your meter, but you took the cover off, and I'm going to go through my energy cutoff. You'll see a little wire soldered right here, and then I'm going to go through my thermostat, which is the on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. After I leave there, I'm going to come down to my heating element. Okay, so on a Suburban, there's your circuit. Junction box, through switch, through your thermostats, down to your heating element. Okay, so that's your Suburban. More than likely, I would look at that switch. Okay, but you could also try to push in your energy cutoff. But if your energy cutoff, that's the thing you push in, that's got the little rubber push button thingy in it. If that failed and it tripped, that usually means your thermostat failed, so go ahead and replace the AC side. Okay, that's your AC on your this. On your Atwood / Dometic, they're very different. Here's your water heater. Okay, you're going to have a control board right there. Okay, and you're going to have 10 wires. Sometimes there's 4, sometimes there's 6. Okay, but let's just go with the 10 wires. If you have AC, they're going to have the 10 wires. You're going to have up at the top, you're going to have 3 wires. I did a video on this. You're going to have a white, an orange, and a brown. You need to verify that you have, if you're working on the AC side, you need to verify you have 12 volts on the white wire at this point. So it comes in on the white wire, 12 volts. It leaves on the brown wire up the top connector. It's going to go through a thermostat, whereas Suburban has a thermostat for the AC and a thermostat for the DC. The Atwood / Dometic has one common thermostat. It's over here, but little sticky tape looking stuff that always peels back. It's going to go through our thermostat. Then it's going to go through like this low temperature a fuse, a little clear plasticky thing. Okay, but I don't think it's that, because if it's working on LP, that's not your problem. So it's going to go through this little clear plastic fuse thing, and then it's going to come back in on the brown wire on the bottom half of this. And if you're troubleshooting the AC side, we'll keep the path to AC. Then you should have the yellow wire here. The yellow wire should have 12 volts coming out of the yellow wire. So on the Atwood Dometic, 12 volts coming in on the white wire, 12 volts leaving the brown wire, 12 volts coming back in on the brown wire on the bottom, 12 volts leaving the yellow wire there. In on white, out on brown, back in on brown, out on yellow. Got it? Great. So this yellow wire works its way to the back. This is now the back of the water heater. So here's our yellow wire leaving the front. Yellow wire, we are going to go to the back of our water heater. This is the yellow wire, back of the Atwood water heater. And there's a relay right here, okay? You can, again, we've talked about me and my little test lead set. I use my test lead set. I can tap into the yellow wire on the front, and if you're very careful, you can hear this click, 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 touch, 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 touch. Your click, 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 click sound. That'll tell you that on the back of the water heater, your relay is being made, okay? So your relay is being made. It's a 12-volt relay on the back side of this, and then here comes your 120-volt wire going through the relay, heating up your heating element on the back side of your water heater. So we talked about Suburban being the switch overwhelmingly. On these, it could be the relay is bad on the back. A lot of times there's a water thing here and a water thing here, and it drips on it, and they get corroded and nasty. The other thing, we talked very early in this session on the little voltage pin that I use and touch, touch, touch. So touch to verify you have 12 volts feeding this. I'd be surprised to find how many times that there's no 120 volts feeding this, because maybe it's on at the breaker, but then somewhere in the RV they put a convenience switch somewhere that you need to turn on and off. So let's make sure you have 120 volts here feeding this relay so that it can heat our heating element. That's a lot, but I've done videos on all this stuff in our video playlist. I've got videos on all this stuff.
Okay.
But that's why I say, see how different, those are very different paths that it takes. And then we can do Dometic, but it's the same system on the Atwood. It's just that they put the heating element on the front. Thank you, Dometic, for doing that, because getting the heating element out, just getting to this relay on the back of these water heaters was just a bear, but now it's all on the front, so we thank them for that.
All right.
Moving on. Okay, I hope that helps.
So, and Tracy, since you have some other questions and you've basically paid for
A service call, yeah.
if you want to email me at info@myrvworks, I'll give you our Patreon live stream link that will be going live as soon as we're done here. We have to wrap up, so I can't ask your other question and can't really go any further in that. But if you want to join us over there, just this one time, I'll give that link to you. Just send me an email. And then Roger, let's see. I don't know, you might not be on anymore. He was the one that had the tankless water heater. We wanted to know the model number, so we can circle back. We still have more questions.
Oh my gosh.
We're running so behind tonight. We do have all the questions queued up. We don't have time for any more, but we'll finish out with these. I think we have 5 more questions.
I have an idea, but I'll tell you about my idea offline.
Okay.
I don't want to say something and then, Darren said.
Riley says, I have an old duotherm heater I can't get to work, no gas. I've replaced control module and gas valve. It is getting power through the cell switch and thermal switch. Any ideas?
Have you checked the motor? You could bench test the motor with it right in there. Now you're saying that it's not working. So if you're saying you're checking power on this, so the first thing, that we just came out with a video like a month ago where I did a bench test on a furnace, and I took my meter and we're following the circuit all the way around. That one we replaced the motor on. So that would be a really good video to watch. It's how long did that one come out ago? Like a month? A couple weeks ago. So that video, I do my meter to do all the testing. You're following this circuit through everything. But if it's not doing anything, I like to give the motors 12 volts directly and see if the motor's going to run. Because it could be a motor. Because the motor, the first thing that furnace is going to do, the very first thing the furnace does when it gets a call for heat is it looks at its cell switch. That cell switch better be open, not closed. So if the cell switch is open, the very next thing it does is it starts the motor. And so when the motor starts, then it expects that cell switch to close. So those are your first 3 steps. So if you're not getting it past there, it could be the motor is bad. And the trick there is you could do a lot with that little white connector just to know where to probe. You said duotherm, so that's going to be the blue wire into the white connector, 12 volts reference to the frame. When you get a call for heat, it depends on if you have that relay on. If it's an older one, it's going to have a relay on it. But anyway, I've done a lot of videos, so I'm going to just refer you to our video playlist because we're running short, but I go on for like an hour on the videos on following all those circuits. And that furnace that we did have a relay on it, a time delay relay.
Okay, and this one is from Chuck. I'm not sure that you'll be able to really answer it, but it says, are you familiar with a 1976 Toyota Chinook, the heaters? I do not see where you can hook up a thermostat to it. Did they make one? It just turned on and that was it. So I know you probably wouldn't know what heater is in there and all of that.
It's probably
and
like a 7900 Suburban or something like some of the old ones, but some of them have the thermostats directly on it. If it doesn't, then what you're going to do is you're going to find 4 wires. So I'm going to just jump into this one real quick and then we'll move on. So imagine you taking that, don't take the furnace out, but imagine taking the furnace out. So if you imagine taking the furnace out, you should see 4 wires that are hanging off this furnace. A plus, a minus, and then 2 additional wires, okay? So if you have those 2 additional wires, that's your thermostat call for heat wires. One of those is going to be piggybacked off of the 12, giving it 12 going into the village, okay? Into the RV, into the whatever. And then when that gets closed, it's going to send it back down that other wire. So that's how you'll know if it can support a thermostat. If you got 4 wires, a plus, a minus, and then 2 thermostat call for heat wires. Of those, 1 will be 12 volts hot. You just need to connect it back and it comes back down. And typically those wires are blue. So that's how you'll know. And if you do have that set up, you can put a thermostat in there. Okay, next.
All right, so we've got Benjamin. He says, I'm currently dealing with likely a bad transfer switch box in my diesel pusher motorhome. My transfer switch box is open now as I'm looking for why my generator isn't powering the house. Okay. Can I assist the coach transfer switch to get it to connect momentarily? My transfer switches are not clicking on. The generator is producing 122 volts.
Okay.
My house power shuts off when I start the generator.
Good.
My transfer switch individual relays, shore and coach, are shaped like a bell with springs and bars on top.
Okay. With
generator on, can I assist the spring-loaded bars to help it connect?
Technically, the answer is yes. You're going to be careful there because you'll do a thing called bucking phases. So I don't know though. What I don't know. So I know the kind you're talking about. These are the big, ugly, very scary looking metal bars, okay? There's 120 volts sitting on those things, so be very careful. Do something that's insulated, so don't be touching them in there. If you see in my videos, all my screwdrivers are insulated, just for safety for that. So I don't know that if your generator's on, if you push that in, I don't know if it's going to seal itself in. I don't know. It depends on how the thing faulted or failed, okay? Because maybe the coil of that relay has failed. And therefore, you pushing it in, the coil needs to be energized to keep it in. There's other transfer switches where there's a mechanical and an electrical interlock. So there's no way for both of them to be on at the same time. But the ones you're talking about, I don't know that they have mechanical I'm pretty sure they do not have mechanical interlocks. There may be an electrical interlock, but by you physically human pushing it in, there goes the whole electrical interlock thing because you did that. What I mean by bucking phases is, let's say that you have shore power and then you have generator power and you push them both in, you could have a bit of a mini explosion, okay? Certainly you're going to do some arcing there because the possibility of those 2 phases being perfectly in sync, you got a better chance of winning the lottery. So we only ever want one source to be energized at any one time. And the connection we want is a break before make. We would never want there to be a make before break, okay? That's my controls engineering background. So that is to say, here I'm shore power, I want to break it before I make it, okay? So that's a break before make. And so when you human, if this one's energized and you human push this one in, you could be bucking the phase and somebody's not going to be happy. So make sure that your shore cord is unplugged. Now, having said all of that, if you really need your generator to work and you're not going to be on shore power, then just bypass the transfer switch. That is to say, here comes my big Romex that came from my generator, or maybe it's SO cord or THHN or something, and then here's my Romex. Just pull them out and just connect them. That'll get you through until you can get a new transfer switch. Okay, so it sounds like your transfer switch may have failed. One of the coils on your relay or contactor may have failed. Now, some of those are interchangeable and you can fix those, but that would be my take on that one. So
Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes to answer 3 questions.
I'm going to go my best.
Okay, Roger's, we're going to circle back to his. I don't know if you'll be able to answer, but we didn't get a model or the other info.
Is this the
from
water
him.
heater one?
I have a class, yeah, A, and my tankless
Okay,
water heater
okay.
is not warming up all the time when using only the hot water valve. It started when taking a shower and ran out of water. Any idea?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the ideas I have would be, we talked about this already. If this, let's assume that this on-demand water heater was added later, that it didn't come with the RV. Then what I would say is let's go have a look at your regulator. Okay. It may not be getting the BTUs that it needs in order to generate that much heat. So let's put a high flow regulator and high flow pigtails to make sure that that on-demand water heater is getting the amount of BTUs that it requires in order to heat up that amount of water in such a short period of time. That'd be my first thing. The second thing is some of these on-demand water heaters do have minimum temperatures that they can receive. So if you're in a very cold environment and you're feeding this water heater very cold water, it may not be going through its little loop there through its chimney long enough to actually heat, okay? Now, this is why I was asking if it's Truma or Girard or Precision or Nautilus. Some of them have a temping valve on them where you can blend a little bit of the cold water with a little bit of the hot water. So you look for a temping valve on there. Like Aqua Hots have a temping valve on the back. Because some of these things can make water really, really hot and they need to blend a little bit of cold with that hot. So look at your temping valve. Maybe the temping valve's bad. LP BTUs, make sure the BTUs are right. Look for a temping valve. Make sure you're within spec on the water that's being fed. And then the last thing I would say is if you look at your specs for your on-demand water heater, it's gonna say how many gallons per minute it will deliver. So let's say that you went and you got these real fancy shower head things, but they're just able to, you took a little California plug out of it is what I call it, because a water restrictor out of it. And you might be running water through it faster than it can handle. All that's in the specifications of how many gallons per minute the thing's able to make. So those would be some things I would look at. Okay, and I could probably go on for another hour on how to test all these things, but that would be my answer on why your on-demand water heater's not able to keep up. Okay.
All right, so Doug says, oh, and he bought our Aqua Hot switch. I think
Hey,
I'm pretty sure I
outstanding.
just sent
Thank
that
you.
out. I had a few
I
orders.
think I need to make more of those.
Hi, I have an issue with my Aqua Hot 450D that no one has figured
Okay.
out. It is in 2016 Integra Anthem. When I am plugged into shore power, it stays on. When I'm running my generator, the burner light on the rocker switch shuts off within 2 minutes.
Okay, so you're running the Aqua Hot on AC, but your burner light turns off. Are you having it on the DC burner? Are you having it on the diesel burner also? Wait, read that again. I'm just trying
Okay, when I am plugged into shore power,
Okay.
It stays on.
It stays
the
on, the
Aqua
diesel
Hot.
burner stays on, or the heating element stays on?
I think it just means the system in general stays
Okay,
on.
okay.
When I'm running my generator,
Generator.
the burner light on the rocker switch shuts off within 2 minutes.
Okay. Then what I'm going to assume, so what I'm going to assume is when you're plugged into shore power, I'm assuming that you're talking about the enable light on your rocker switch inside for diesel burner. So let's talk about that light on your diesel burner rocker switch in 30 seconds or less. Okay. So they call it a status light. The challenge I have with the Aqua Hots and their big electronic control board is what they call those lights makes no sense to me. So in my brain, I have to change around what that means. Burner status. So I changed the word status to enable. Okay. So if you change it to enable, like all of a sudden the thing makes sense. So you're looking at the light on your rocker switch. I'm calling that an enable light. Okay. So you flip your rocker switch on. This is the same exact light that I'm tapping into for our Aqua Hot switch boxes. Okay, it's that big amber orange light. So I'm calling that the enable light. Doesn't mean it's on, doesn't mean it's off. It means it is enabled, that it will be allowed to work if it needs to. It's an enable light, okay? Not a status light, okay? So why they call it a status light, I have no idea. So it's Darren's enable light. So your enable light stays on when you're on shore power, Okay, meaning you flip your switch on, the light should stay on for 1,000,000 years, okay, as long as it's enabled. What that enable light means is that everybody's happy. I could go through the whole list of all the things that makes it happy, but it's happy. It's if it needs to start, it'll start. If it needs to stop, it'll stop, and it'll start and stop and start and stop because it's enabled. That's the enable light. On my Aqua Hot box, it's amber. So, but then you come off of shore power and you go off of your generator, and that enable light, now it's not enabled anymore. So it's not happy. So it disabled itself, okay? So it's not, I'm saying it's not a status light, it's an enable light. So it disabled itself. So the question then becomes why? And so the generator being on is going to basically run through the converter because the Aqua Hot only wants to see 12 volts unless it's the AC heating element. But I don't think we're talking about the AC heating element here with that enable light. The enable light is a 12 volt light. So the question then becomes, why does a generator...
Oh, you can keep going.
Oh, but you're very distracting. Okay, so why does the enable light turn off when you're on generator? So the generator's working. I'm going through my breaker box. I'm going through my converter. The converter's giving me 12 volts, feeding my bus. The bus then goes through to the Aqua Hot. Why on generator does it turn off? So my next question is, does everything else work just perfectly on the generator? What I would be very curious to know is I would take my meter and I would look at on the bottom of your electronics panel, you're gonna have these big screws. You're gonna have at least two. Sometimes you have a third screw, and sometimes the third screws bust. I wanna know what that voltage is feeding it. You're looking for 12 volts on those big wires at the bottom of your electronic control. I would wanna know, when I'm on shore power, what do I get there? When I'm on generator, what do I get there? I'm very, very curious. Here's where the data loggers come in, guys. I'm very curious, what's a generator? What's the connection between the generator and shore power? There should not be anything because by the time you get to the 12 volt level, that converter does not care where that power came from. Whether it's coming from the generator or it's coming from the shore power, it's still going through the converter, and the converter is going to convert it to 12 volts. So what's a generator got to do with that? Fascinating. And like you said, no one can figure this out, but obviously the generator has something to do with it, but like what? Because generators just generate 120 volts, goes to the converter, give me 12 volts, and then it gets fed to the thing. So I would want to know, but the Aqua Hot is blind, dumb, and stupid, and it just like, I got 12 volts. So something is causing the Aqua Hot to disable itself when it's on generator. What would that be? And then we have the test cards, our tech cards for the Aqua Hot. There's only so many things that will cause that Aqua Hot to disable itself. So then if I was there, I would go through all the list of things that would cause it to disable, and I would start eliminating all the possibilities. What would cause my Aqua Hot to disable? Our tech cards deals with 7 tests that you do for that burner module down there. And so it could very well be there, but again, it's in the 12 volt world, so why would it disable? Wow, that's a fun one, and I love those kinds of things. It could only be so many things that causes an Aqua Hot to disable. So I would basically go through the things that's causing it to disable, and I would try to identify which one of those things is not happy. And I would prove it by it works on shore and it works on generator, and I would try to isolate it that way. Could it be like, I'm going to use the word harmonic distortion? I don't think so, but I do know that refrigerator control boards are very susceptible to electromagnetic noise. Is a generator putting out some kind of electromagnetic noise that the board is picking up on? I've never seen that happen before, but it could. So then you would take an AM radio and you'd walk way over here and try to find a staticky channel, and you start bringing it closer and closer and closer to your electronics control board and see if you're picking up any more static. And then that would be a fun thing to do. Interesting. I don't know, and I spent more than 30 seconds on that one, but I love those kinds of challenges. I don't see the connection between the generator and the 12 volts. That's because it's going through the converter. The converter should clean that up.
Okay, so our last question is from Lawrence, and he says he had a blow motor that was noisy and then it stopped.
On a furnace?
on a furnace,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
And so the
The
question,
furnace stopped or the noise stopped?
no, the furnace stopped.
The furnace stopped. Okay.
Yeah.
Noisy furnace stopped. Okay.
So the question is, how would you prove a bad fan motor?
I would bench test it. I mean, what I mean by bench test it, don't pull the thing out. I would, your furnace is going to have, your furnace motor is going to have a red wire and a black wire. Black wire is going to ground. Great. Wonderful. The red wire is going to go to your control board, your little DSI board inside. You're going to pull that little red wire off, pull your control board off, pull the red wire off. So now I got a red wire in my hand sticking right here. It's the red wire that goes directly into the motor, okay? Not the red wire that goes to the electrode, not the red wire that goes to anything else. It's a red wire that goes directly to the motor. And then, again, a little selfless plug on my test lead set that we make. I would take my test lead set and I would take my 12-volt battery off of my drill, and I would basically take my test lead and I would set it up like Barbie's Playhouse with all these accessories, and I would basically connect to the red wire plus and the frame minus, and I'd give it 12 volts, and I've isolated the motor, haven't I? I'm giving that motor unadulterated, do not pass go, pure 12 volts directly to the motor. And it's a go or no go, pass fail type of a thing. And that would eliminate the board and anything else. So that's how you would test a motor directly.
All right. All right, so we made it through. Thanks,
Wow, that was
everybody,
long.
for your
Yeah.
questions. And yeah, it was a long one. Yeah, we do this monthly, maybe more, I don't know.
Maybe
We'll
more.
see.
And I've got a secret idea. I want to talk to my team back here before I actually go public with it. But
And major accomplishment after a year of doing these, we finally wrote out all the steps. So today was, I think, the first time we didn't have any
have a go, no-go
problems
sheet.
with our
Yes,
setup.
yes.
We got audio, we got video, everything.
it took us a year, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I forgot to hit the record button, but that's okay. It'll still publish on YouTube. It just means we can't go back and like edit out things, but that's okay.
Did I pick my nose or something?
I added it to the list, so next time it'll
Okay,
get done.
good. A
'cause
go,
it's on
no-go
there.
sheet. We learned something from NASA.
So our next live stream will be February 2nd at 4:30 Pacific time. We are going to hop over to Patreon now.
Yep.
If anybody over there is still waiting for us,
I know,
hopefully.
sorry, guys.
But we do an exclusive live stream over there. And so if you're interested, I did put a link to our Patreon. We just kind of revamped that too. And so there's a lot of benefits over there. You get exclusive content, you get early access, you get kind of some like you're the first to know what's going on and what we're releasing. So you might check it out over there. And if you wanted to, if you joined, you could certainly hop onto the live stream as well. We send that message out with the link as soon as we go live, which will be in just a few minutes. So thanks for joining
I'm
us.
going to give a big hug to my people. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. It allows us to keep doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So big hug. This is me hugging you. Thank you. All right.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you at a future live stream. If not, right away over on Patreon.
But I got to go pee first. Then we'll go on Patreon. Okay.
TMI.
I know,
Happy New
right?
Year.
You guys know me. You guys have seen me. Shaved.
New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes. All right.
I'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye, guys.